Hello everyone, peace be upon you. Before we begin, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and stay with me until the end of the story. Also, leave a comment telling me which city and country you're watching from. I'd love to see how far my story has reached. For those of you who have already subscribed, I sincerely wish you good health, ease in all your affairs, abundant blessings, and may all your hopes and dreams come true. Amen. Now, let's begin the story. The bus braked hard at the main gate of Fort Branson Training Base in North Carolina. Madison Hale pressed her palm against the window and watched a line of recruits shuffle into the humidity. Her reflection looked young and unsure. 23. Brown hair pulled tight, jaw set like she was about to jump into cold water. A sign near the guard post read, "Training builds character." She wasn't sure if it was a promise or a warning. Off the bus, recruits. Let's move. The voice snapped like a belt. Staff Sergeant Donovan Brooks stood near the curb with a clipboard and the flat stare of someone who had seen this scene 1,000 times. Maddie grabbed her duffel and stepped down. Heat hit her face. Boots thumped. Bags slammed. Someone tripped. The chaos felt loud enough to shake her bones. They formed a rough line that was not nearly straight enough for Brooks. Tighten it up. You are not trees leaning in the wind. He paced once, then read names. Hale, Madison. She raised a hand. 1st Platoon, Bravo Company. Barracks C. He moved on without a nod. Inside the barracks, metal bunks ran wall to wall. The air smelled like detergent fighting a losing battle. Maddie took a lower bunk. A woman with a neat ponytail dropped her bag on the top bunk and stuck out a hand. Jordan Kim. Portland. Maddie shook it. Madison. Lincoln, Nebraska. Jordan pointed with her chin. Rule 1, find your boots before the yelling starts. Before Maddie could answer, the yelling started. Formation outside, 90 seconds. Brooks again. They scrambled. Laces fumbled, shirts twisted, and a recruit in the next row muttered a string of words that would not help him. On the parade ground, the line was straighter. Not perfect, but closer. Brooks looked satisfied enough to continue. Welcome to Fort Branson. For the next 10 weeks, your time belongs to me. You eat when I say, sleep when I say, and you will learn to move with purpose. You are not special here. You are potential. He let it hang. Point. Now. They ran. Grass slicked their shoes. The air felt heavy. Maddie's lungs burned by the first corner. She had trained in Lincoln, but this humidity had its own plan. A recruit pulled even with her, tall, square jaw, smug half-smile. Try to keep up, he said, then passed her easily. The name tape on his chest read Cole. Jordan kept a steady pace beside Maddie. Breathe out longer than you breathe in, she said, not looking over. Maddie adjusted. It helped, but not enough. By the finish, her legs shook. Brooks moved down the line, eyes sharp. Cole, decent. Kim, consistent. Hale, he stopped in front of her. We'll see. Chow Hall came fast. Noise bounced off the walls. Maddie balanced a tray and hunted for a seat. Jordan waved her over. Across the table, the tall recruit smirked. Travis Cole, Dallas. You look like you took a wrong turn from a college rec center. Jordan didn't look up. Eat your food, Travis. He laughed and went back to his mashed potatoes. Maddie kept her eyes on her plate. The afternoon brought uniform issue, bunk checks, and a quick talk on standards. Boots lined up heel to heel. Socks folded to exact widths. Bed squared so tight a coin would bounce. Maddie tried to copy the sample bunk, but her corners failed inspection. Brooks stopped, pressed a finger to the wrinkle, and raised an eyebrow. Fix it. Then fix it again. Weapon safety followed. The instructor spoke fast, hands moving with practiced rhythm. Maddie listened hard. Still, when they handed her the rifle for a breakdown drill, her fingers stalled at the pin. Cole finished early and let his parts clack a little too loud on the table. "Not hard," he said to no one and everyone. Maddie forced the pin free, piece by piece. "Slow, but correct." The instructor gave a short nod that felt larger than it looked. Lights out came late. The barracks settled into the kind of quiet that still has noise in it, fans, boots settling, a cough, a whisper. Maddie lay on her back and pulled a photo from her pocket. Ethan stood on a curb in Lincoln with a skateboard and a grin that made the sun look lazy. She remembered the last thing he said at the bus station. "You don't quit first." She had laughed like it was a joke. It didn't feel like one now. Jordan rolled over on the top bunk. "You did fine," she said into the dark. "Day one is supposed to be ugly." Maddie tucked the photo back into her pillowcase. "I was slow." "Everyone is slow until they aren't." Jordan yawned. "Set your alarm 5 minutes before wake up. Beat the noise." At 0430, alarms sliced the dark. Not Maddie's. Jordan's. "Up," Jordan said, already halfway into her boots. They moved quietly. In the mirror by the sinks, Maddie saw a face that looked a little older than yesterday. She tied her hair tighter. Outside, the sky was still black and the grass wet. A formation grew from the shadows. Brooks stepped into the yellow light near the doorway and studied them like a mechanic looking at parts on a bench. "Today you will learn how much you don't know," he said. "That is good news." He turned and walked. They followed. Morning PT hurt more than the run. Push-ups. Sit-ups. Sprints. A plank that lasted longer than time. When Maddie's elbows shook, Brooks crouched near her shoulder. "You can stop when you have a reason that beats your name on that chest." She didn't stop. When he stood, she kept counting. After PT came the obstacle course tour. Tall walls, rope climbs, balance logs, tunnels cut into dirt. The instructors called it a confidence course, which sounded like a joke. Cole stared at the 10-foot wall like he was measuring it with his pride. "Easy," he said. Sophie Langford, quiet and pale, stared at the same wall like it had teeth. Back at the barracks, Maddie fixed her bed corners until the blanket looked like a map pressed under glass. When Brooks walked past, his hands skimmed the fabric, and he kept moving. No comment. She took that as a pass. Ciao again. Less chaos now that everyone was too tired to talk loud. Cole still found the energy. "Hale, you going to make it through week 1? Maddie sipped water. "Yes." He waited for more. She gave him nothing. Jordan grinned at her tray. "Good answer." Mail call brought nothing for Maddie, which stung more than she expected. She wrote Ethan a short note on the back of a schedule, folded it into a plain envelope, and felt better for doing something. Evening drill formed on the same patch of ground as the morning. The sun dropped behind the tree line, and the air cooled just enough to notice. Brooks read announcements, then paused. "Some of you think day 1 defines you. It doesn't. Day 30 will tell me who you are. Day 1 only tells me how you walked in." He looked down the row. For half a second, Maddie thought his eyes landed on her. Maybe she imagined it. Lights out again. Same sounds. Same ceiling. But Madison Hale learned the space between the yelling. Wake early. Move fast. Listen hard. Fix what you can fix. She planned the morning in her head, boots by the bunk, laces straight, canteen full, pin practice on the rifle if there was a gap. It wasn't confidence. Not yet. It was a list, and she knew how to follow lists. She slid the photo back under her pillow. "Not quitting first," she whispered, barely a breath. Outside, a flag rope knocked the pole in a steady rhythm. Inside, her heartbeat slowed to match it. Day 1 was over. Day 2 would not be kinder. But she would meet it standing. The second morning hit harder than the first. Maddie woke before the alarm, slid her feet into boots, and stepped into air that felt wet enough to drink. Jordan fell in beside her without a word. Formation tightened under the yellow lights. Brooks scanned faces like a roll call of problems he meant to solve. Today isn't a redo of yesterday, he said. Today is more. Then PT began and more showed its teeth. Sprints across damp grass turned into lunges, then into push-ups that burned the chest. Maddie counted past the point where numbers stopped helping. Cole kept pace 2 rows over with that same half-smile, as if his legs didn't feel what everyone else felt. On the last shuttle, Maddie stumbled and caught herself with a palm, dirt sticking to her skin. Brooks saw it. He didn't bark. He just said, up, like gravity had options. She pushed up. Chow was quick. Coffee tasted like a dare. The talk at the tables dropped to a few sentences here and there. Rifle range after chow, Jordan said. Focus on your breathing. Maddie nodded and finished her eggs. The range looked long and flat, paper silhouettes posted at different distances. The instructor ran through safety again, then gave them a timed breakdown and reassembly. Maddie's hands were not fast. Cole's were very fast. When the timer buzzed, he leaned back and cracked his knuckles on purpose. Maddie finished late and clean. The instructor tapped the receiver. Function check. She passed. It was something, but it wasn't enough to quiet the knot in her chest. Live fire started rough. The first group took lanes. Maddie fought the rush in her ears. Sight picture, steady squeeze. Her first 3 shots landed far right. She adjusted grip, exhaled longer, and tried again. Better, but still not center. 2 lanes over, Cole's grouping tightened like a button. Textbook, the instructor said to him. Maddie heard it and swallowed the sting. She didn't want praise. She wanted improvement she could measure. Back in the barracks at midday, Brooks ran an inspection that felt designed to crack patience. He found dust under a bunk frame and started over. He found a loose thread on a cuff and started over again. When he reached Maddie's rack, his fingers skimmed along the folded blanket, then paused at a wrinkle near the corner. Hale. He didn't raise his voice. Start again. She fixed it. He stood until she finished, then tilted his head a fraction. Better. It wasn't a win, but it wasn't a loss either. Afternoon brought the confidence course introduction. Instructors demonstrated how to attack the wall, how to lock a foot on the rope, how to keep hips tight on the logs. Then it was their turn. Sophie froze at the base of the wall, fingers flexing and unflexing. Cole made a joke under his breath. Jordan shot him a look that said not today. Maddie stepped behind Sophie and kept her voice even. Jump, catch, knee up, then shift your weight. I'll spot you. Sophie jumped, missed, jumped again, and caught the edge. Maddie pressed a steadying hand to her boot. Sophie climbed over and dropped down shaking but smiling. Thanks, she said. Maddie nodded and turned to face the wall herself. The wood was taller up close. Her first jump caught only fingertips. Splinters bit her skin and she slid down. Cole clucked his tongue. Should have stretched your pride. She ignored him. Second jump, better grip, knee up, elbows tight. She hauled over and landed hard on the other side, breath burning. Brooks, watching from the end of the lane, didn't clap. He just moved his eyes on as if the point was never the wall but what they did after. By late afternoon, heat settled heavy over the field. They did rope climbs. Maddie's hands burned raw by the halfway mark. She wanted to slide down and try again later. Brooks walked under the ropes and said, "You are not waiting on a better day." The better day is when you keep moving. She tightened her feet and pulled. Not pretty, but enough to tag the beam and descend without falling. On the ground, her arms shook so much she had to flex each finger to get feeling back. Jordan bumped her shoulder. Win is a win. The day kept stacking. A timed run she finished near the back. A gear layout where she placed 2 items in the wrong order and earned a corrective push-up set that ate whatever was left in her shoulders. In the chow hall, Cole enjoyed himself. End of week you'll be packing a bus, he said lightly, like he was doing her a favor by predicting failure early. Maddie ate without looking up. Jordan put her fork down and stared at him. Shut it, Travis. He held up his hands. Just conversation. Then have it somewhere else, Jordan said. He left it there, but the smirk stayed. Mail call again. A thin envelope with Ethan's handwriting waited in the stack. Maddie opened it on the stairwell, away from the noise. He wrote about school, about a small win at the skate park, about mom acting like she wasn't checking the mailbox twice a day. At the bottom he'd drawn a stick figure with a tiny rucksack and the words "Don't quit" first in crooked letters. It was silly and perfect. She folded it carefully and slipped it behind the photo in her pillow. Evening brought weapon cleaning and a short class on map reading. Maddie liked the logic of it. Azimuths made sense. Numbers lined up. If you did the steps, you landed where you planned. People were harder than maps. The class ended with a quiz. She passed. Jordan passed. Cole passed and made sure everyone knew he aced it. Before lights out, Brooks formed them up behind the barracks. Crickets loud, air cooler, stars out. He walked the line slow. Some of you think you lost today, he said. Maybe you did. Good. Now you know what losing tastes like here. You'll get another swing in the morning. Bring a better swing. He stopped near Maddie and didn't look at her, not quite. Nobody graduates on day 2. Nobody washes out on day 2. You only decide what day 2 means to day 3. Then he dismissed them. In the bunk, Maddie turned the letter over with her thumb and pictured the wall, the rope, the range, the run. There wasn't one big fix. There were 100 small ones. Wake earlier. Grip higher. Exhale longer. Close the groupings. Ask Jordan to spot on rope drills. Ask the instructor one clear question instead of pretending she understood every word the first time. She set her alarm 2 minutes earlier than Jordan's. Not a statement. A step. Sometime after lights went dark, rain started soft and steady. The roof ticked. Maddie stared at the underside of the top bunk and let the sound even out her breath. She had been slow today. She had been late. She had been mocked. None of that wrote tomorrow unless she let it. She wasn't here to be liked. She was here to learn how not to break. She closed her eyes on the sentence that had followed her from Lincoln to North Carolina. Don't quit first. And with the rain working like a metronome, she set her mind on the only thing she could control in this place. She would be the one who showed up early and kept showing up. So she beat her alarm by a minute and slid out of the bunk while the barracks still breathed slow. Boots on, laces tight, canteen filled. Jordan joined her at the sinks, hair already tied. Rope work after PT, Jordan said. You spot me, I spot you. Maddie nodded. The plan was simple. Do the next hard thing, then the next. Formation felt colder after the night rain. Brooks set the moving before the day could think about it. Hill sprints. Bear crawls. Planks that shook elbows and turned seconds into gravel. Cole glided through it like he owned the field. Maddie ground her teeth and stayed inside the count. When the set ended, Brooks paced by without comment. No praise, no sting. Work was the conversation. After chow they hit the ropes. Jordan locked in first, feet tight, clean pull all the way to the beam. Your turn, she said, breath even. Maddie pinched the rope with her boots, pulled, slid a hand, pulled again. Halfway her grip started to go. Jordan stood under the beam. Relock your feet. Don't rush the slide. Maddie reset and kept moving. When her palm flared, she focused on knees and hips. She tagged the beam and came down under control. Not pretty, not fast, but better. Jordan bumped her fist. Again. They did 3 more reps until their forearms hummed. Range time came next. Maddie asked the instructor for one clear correction. My first 3 shots drift right. What am I missing? He eyed her stance, then adjusted her support elbow. Stack your bones, not your muscles. Exhale, then squeeze. Don't talk with the trigger. She tried again. The group tightened a little. Not center, not yet, but closer. Cole's shots were tight from the start. He didn't say anything this time. He didn't have to. The paper spoke. Lunch tasted like salt and relief. Sophie slid onto the bench with them, shoulders still hunched like the wall was watching her. I keep freezing, she said. Hands won't listen. Maddie kept her voice flat. We'll chunk it. 1 move at a time. You don't beat the wall. You beat the next 6 inches. Sophie nodded like she wanted to believe it. The afternoon schedule posted, obstacle course, gear layout, inspection, classroom. The wall stood first in line. Maddie went behind Sophie, set a palm to the small of her back, and called the steps. Jump. Catch. Knee. Shift. Sophie caught and stalled. Maddie kept the pressure steady. Keep your hips close. Don't let your arms do all of it. On the 3rd breath Sophie rolled over the top and dropped, eyes wide and bright. Cole clapped slow once and smirked. Look at that. Progress. Jordan stared at him until the smirk softened. Maddie took her own run. First try, she cleared the wall with less drag. On the balance log she made a small correction with her shoulders and stopped the wobble before it started. On the cargo net she remembered to keep 3 points of contact and move the 4th like she was painting numbers on a clock. At the end, lungs burning, she checked the time. Not great. Not a disaster. A number to beat. Gear layout slammed everyone back to details. Brooks walked the rows with a list and brutal patience. This is not your bedroom. This is not your idea of organized. He stopped at Maddie's mat and stared at a canteen angled a hair off line. He waited. She fixed it without a word. He waited a beat longer, then moved on. The lesson was loud in its silence. Map class followed. Routes, pace count, terrain features. Maddie liked how the puzzle came together when the steps were clean. Brooks tossed out a scenario. You lose comms. You have a point to hit by time on target. Talk me through your plan. Cole answered fast and crisp. Maddie answered slower, but her plan covered contingencies. Brooks gave nothing away, but his pen didn't move while she spoke. Dinner ran quiet. Everyone saved what they had left for the last formation. When it came, the air felt like metal cooling. Brooks looked them over. Some of you made small changes today. Good. Small is the only kind that sticks. Tomorrow you stack them. He paused, then added, a reminder, the forge is not a rumor. It's a date. Everything you do now is either fuel or a leak. The line shifted on its boots. The word forge made everything feel closer and sharper. Back in the barracks, Jordan set a towel on the floor and showed Sophie how to drill the wall with a chair and a grip band. Knee drive. Hips close. Maddie worked the rifle pin in her hands until the motion felt like a single thought instead of 5. Cole passed by on the way to the sinks and looked at the improvised setup with a raised eyebrow. Gym class in here now? Jordan didn't look up. Go hydrate, hero. Cole smirked and kept walking. Lights out clicked. The quiet settled. Maddie pulled Ethan's letter and read the last line again. Don't quit first. She slid it back and stared into the dark. The day had been a stack of things that would not be solved by wanting. She hadn't crushed the course. She hadn't centered her group. But she had moved the needle in places that mattered. Her hands hurt. Her shoulders throbbed. Her head felt clearer than it had since the bus door opened. The next morning punched fast. Rain gone, heat back. PT rolled into a timed 2-mile. Maddie set a pace she could hold and pressed the last quarter with whatever was left. Cole finished near the front and checked his watch with satisfaction. Maddie came in middle pack, a few seconds under her last try. She wrote the number in her head like it was a receipt. At the range she applied the elbow fix and added a lighter trigger squeeze. 3 shots landed closer. The instructor gave a short, flat, better. On the rope she climbed to the beam without losing the lock. On the log she kept her eyes high and spine straight, like Jordan said. Sophie managed the wall twice with less panic. Small changes, stacked. At chow Cole slid onto the bench across from them and, for once, didn't lead with a jab. You two running extra? He asked, like information mattered more than the joke today. Jordan shrugged. We wake early. Cole nodded once, slow. Figures. He lifted his tray and left. It wasn't friendly. It wasn't hostile either. A gap opened where only competition had been. Inspection hit again. Brooks dug for mistakes and found fewer. When he reached the end of the row he turned back. If you think I don't notice improvement because I don't say, good job, that's a you problem. I notice. The standard notices. Keep raising it. That night, Brooks posted a partial roster. Squad leaders for a field exercise next week, Kim, Cole, and, Maddie stared, Hale. Jordan poked her shoulder. You earned it. Cole glanced over from the doorway, read the list, and met Maddie's eyes for a beat without the smirk. Something like respect, or at least a recognition that the ground had shifted. Sleep didn't come easy. Plans did. Routes, checkpoints, pace counts, who to pair with whom. Sophie needed a steady role she could win. Jordan could navigate under stress. Cole would lead his own team, but that didn't change the truth. On game day, all the teams still made one company. Brooks's voice from formation rode the edge of her thoughts. Fuel or leak? She woke before the alarm again and stood into the dark. The room felt the same. She didn't. The fear was still there, duller now, shaped by work. She laced her boots, took the letter from under her pillow, and tapped it once like a promise. She wasn't trying to be a hero. She was trying to be reliable. In this place, that was the beginning of everything. The posting went up before dawn, the forge, 0400 start, 96 hours, full ruck, rotating objectives, no excuses. Squad leads, Kim, Cole, Hale. Maddie read her name twice to make sure. Brooks gave the brief with a flat voice and a sharper look. You will move as teams. You will meet times. You will bring everyone you started with. Hydration and discipline are not suggestions. Leaders solve problems at your level. He paused at the doorway. One more thing. Nobody cares how fast you were yesterday. They stepped off into heavy air and thick ground. Rucks weighed like extra people. The first road march ran along a gravel cut, then into pine. Pace count mattered. Maddie called a rhythm she could hold and still think. Jordan walked one file over with the map board, quiet and precise. Sophie settled in the middle, breathing loud but steady. Cole's squad took the parallel lane. He flashed that old half-smile and pointed forward like he owned the forest. Maddie didn't bite. She watched her people. An hour in, the trail broke into a slick decline toward a shallow creek. Rocks were greased by the last rain. Sophie slipped, caught herself, then slipped again and landed hard. She hissed and grabbed her ankle. The squad stopped as one body, a mistake. Single file on the right bank, Maddie said. Jordan, check the timetable. Travis, she looked up as Cole's squad reached the water. We're good, he said, already moving. Fine. Sophie, talk to me. I can put weight on it, Sophie said, wincing. Maddie tested the joint, then made the call. Redistribute. I'll take her ammo. Torres, she caught herself. Different world. Martinez, extra canteen. They shifted weight until Sophie could move without grinding her face. It cost them time. Maddie accepted the bill and reset the pace. First objective, land NAV to a small clearing with a marker plate. Comms cut on purpose. Brooks's handwriting on the task card said make time, not magic. Jordan plotted the azimuth and gave Maddie the number. 244 degrees, 900 meters, minor elevation. Copy. Maddie put them online, counted her paces, and corrected a drift when the compass needle started to lie around metal fence posts. 10 meters from where she expected, the plate flashed in brush. Punch, log, move. Sleep deprivation started early. They got 10 minutes on packs, then another push. The heat rose. Water dropped. Someone in the back went quiet in the wrong way. Maddie called a short halt, checked faces, and forced electrolyte tabs into warm canteens. Sip now, she said. Not later. It wasn't a suggestion. She cut 2 pounds of non-essential junk off a ruck and tied it to her own. It made her slower. It kept the line moving. Night 1 brought a long leg across uneven ground with a time hack that looked rude on paper. The sky closed in. Headlamps made tunnels of light. Maddie took a bad bearing off a crooked tree line and walked them 10 degrees left of smart. She felt it in her gut before Jordan said anything. We're off, Jordan whispered. Maddie stopped, reset the azimuth, owned it without drama. Correction. My error. They burned 6 minutes and won back 4 by tightening the column and trimming chatter. When the point marker finally showed, she exhaled once and filed the lesson, admit, adjust, move. Second day, obstacles under load. Walls, low crawl, litter carries. The cadre added stress with horns and clocks. Sophie stared at the wall and didn't blink. Same steps, Maddie said, voice even. Jump. Catch. Knee. Shift. Sophie went, stalled, went again, and got over. On the litter lane, they rotated every 30 counts to keep hands working. Cole's team came in hot behind them and tried to pass in a choke point. The lines tangled. A private in Cole's squad buckled, eyes glazed. Heat or pride or both. Maddie grabbed his strap, walked him 3 steps into shade, and shoved a canteen at him while Cole cleared his lane. He's yours, she said. Cole looked at the kid, then at her. The smirk didn't show. Got it. It wasn't a truce. It was an understanding. By afternoon the rucks carved shoulders. Blisters bloomed. The second night brought a river crossing that was more brown water than river but wide enough to make idiots. Maddie cut the problem into parts. Human chain. Tall on the outside, short inside. Packs high. Unclipped chest straps. If you slip to me. Jordan anchored midstream. Maddie took the outside where the push was worst. The water came cold to the thigh and strong at the knee. One recruit started to panic breathe. Look at my hand, Maddie said, calm and flat. Step. 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 They made the opposite bank muddy and whole. Cole's team chose a faster cut and paid for it with 2 soakers and a lost hat. He glanced over as he wrung his sleeve. Not a word. Hours blurred. Tasks stacked. A radio drill in the weeds, a map test under red light, a casualty drag up a stupid hill. Maddie kept her voice level and her instructions short. Micro goals. To that stump. Now the fence line. Now the bend. Breathe on the exhale. Say your count. When someone shook, she gave them a job. When someone flagged, she moved them forward to chase her heels. She ate on the walk and slept on a rock that probably had a name. Brooks appeared at random like a rule with boots. He never smiled. He watched everything. On the third night, the scenario went live: blank fire, movement to contact, break contact, evacuate a casualty. Time wasn't generous. Noise and light multiplied mistakes. Maddie assigned roles while the cadre read the script. Jordan, NAV and check. Sophie, stay middle, watch spacing. Miller, you have rear security. I'm on point. They moved, took contact, poppers and shouting, and did what they had drilled. Maddie called the peel, counted the steps, and kept the line from turning into a tail chase. When the cadre tagged a recruit as wounded, she dropped to him and took the drag strap herself until they could rotate. At the wall in the dark, Sophie froze again. Maddie locked eyes through a smear of mud. Knee. Shift. Sophie moved and cleared, breathing like a stuck valve. They hit the last tape with seconds that felt like pennies, but the cadre clicked the stopwatch and waved them through. Not pretty. Effective. Dawn dragged itself over the trees for the last ruck. Everything hurt by then. Feet were foreign objects. The finish line sat somewhere past the next rise and the one after that. Maddie called a cadence, not musical, just math. 20 hard, 10 easy. Again. The line held. She pulled the strap on her own pack tighter to stop the bounce. Jordan walked close enough to pass map checks without words. Cole's squad slid to parallel somewhere on the dirt road's other wheel rut. He looked over once with a face that said he was done living for the smirk. The chute to the end opened without a banner, just a piece of tape on gravel and 4 cadre with clipboards. They crossed it together, loud inside, quiet outside. Brooks stood beyond the tape with his arms folded and his eyes like a level. He let silence do a lap. Hale, he said finally. She stepped forward. Your squad met times, maintained accountability, and didn't make the same mistake twice. You made corrections without theater. You carried what wasn't yours when it kept the team moving. That's leadership here. He didn't hand her anything. He didn't have to. They staged gear, checked feet, and drank water that tasted like victory and hose. Sophie leaned her head back against her ruck and laughed once without sound. Jordan slid down next to Maddie and nudged her boot. You held the line, she said. Cole passed by with his squad and stopped just long enough to say, good work, like the words cost him something and were worth it. When the sun finally decided to act like morning, the cadre released them to the barracks. Maddie climbed onto her bunk and stared at the ceiling, too tired to sleep and somehow clearer than she'd been in weeks. The forge wasn't about heroics. It was about 100 decisions you don't get to rewrite. She hadn't been perfect. She had been steady. And in this place, steady was the difference between talking about standards and meeting them. The morning after the forge, the base moved like an engine cooling down, same noise, less edge. Bodies limped, boots squeaked, bandages showed under cuffs. Maddie sat on the bunk and peeled tape from a heel that looked like it had lost an argument with gravel. Jordan tossed her a fresh strip. Wrap it before PT, she said. You know they're not canceling anything. Maddie nodded. The schedule on the board proved her right: recovery run, equipment turn in, range qual, inspection. No parade for finishing. Just the next page. Formation felt looser and somehow tighter. People stood straighter even while they hurt. Brooks scanned the line and spoke like he was reading a measurement. The forge is over. Your habits aren't. We'll see what stuck. He sent them out for an easy loop that didn't feel easy. Maddie kept a controlled pace. Sophie matched it, breathing steady, ankle taped. Cole ran a step ahead of his squad, not pushing, just present. When they hit the last turn, Brooks called them to a jog walk and let the silence do the talking. Chow tasted better than it should have. Salt, heat, sugar, everything turned into fuel the instant it hit. Sophie sat with them and rotated her foot like she didn't trust it yet. It's fine, she said when Maddie looked. I'm fine. A pause. Thanks for yesterday. Maddie shrugged. We all carried something. Across the hall, Cole glanced their way and then back to his tray, as if the room had learned new manners overnight. Gear turn-in became a lesson in gratitude. Nothing lost, nothing late. Brooks checked serials like a banker. If you can't track equipment, I can't trust you with people, he said without looking up. Maddie counted, logged, and corrected a form before he had to point at it. He didn't comment. He slid the clipboard forward. The next recruit wasn't ready and learned what comments sounded like. The range qual posted for the afternoon. The heat came back early and sat on the dirt like it paid rent. Maddie took her lane, set her stance, and ran the checklist in her head. Stack bones, exhale, clean squeeze. First volley landed closer than last week. Second volley tightened. By the last round, the group sat where she wanted it. The instructor marked her card and gave a flat, qualified plus. It wasn't celebration. It was math. Maddie let the numbers land and filed the feeling for later. Jordan qualified high. Sophie cleared baseline and then some. On Cole's lane, the paper tried not to move and failed. He didn't grin, he nodded like a craftsman. When they policed brass, he drifted close enough to speak without making it a thing. Your peel under fire was clean, he said, eyes on the ground. You didn't panic the line. Maddie kept picking cases. You didn't either. He huffed a small sound that wasn't quite a laugh. I almost did. You fixed the spacing. The admission hung there, dry and honest. We fix what we can fix, Maddie said. He rolled a shoulder. Yeah. Inspection at 1700 ran like a ritual. Bunks tight, boots bright, lockers squared to angles only a ruler could love. Brooks moved down the aisle with a penlight and a patience that felt personal. When he reached Maddie's rack, he clicked the light, skimmed corners, and lifted a hanger to check alignment. The beam paused on the photo tucked in her pillowcase. He put it back exactly where it had been. Hale, he said, still scanning. You operating on luck? No, drill sergeant. On talent? No, drill sergeant. He clicked the light off. Good answer. He stepped away. Company, listen up. The line straightened. Recognitions post tomorrow. Not awards you wear in town. The kind you earn here. Don't chase them. Chase the standard and let the paperwork chase you. After lights out, the barracks didn't quiet the way it usually did. Low voices traded stories from the forge, who slipped, who saved, who made the call that mattered. Sophie whispered, you didn't yell at me on the wall. Maddie stared at the underside of the bunk. Didn't need to. I would have frozen if you did, Sophie said. A beat. Thanks for the no theater. Jordan dropped a pillow from the top bunk that thumped Maddie's shoulder. That's your nickname now, she said. No theater. Maddie groaned. Absolutely not. Morning posted a new sheet outside the orderly room. People clustered and stepped aside for each other like the list had gravity. Maddie and Jordan walked up without hurry. Brooks' handwriting again, field exercise squad leads, commendable performance, Kim and Hale. Forge leadership, effective under stress, Hale. Marksmanship, top tier, Cole. Peer recognition, team cohesion, Hale. The words weren't flowery. They didn't need to be. Jordan elbowed her. Paperwork found you. Maddie's chest tightened then steadied. Cole scanned the page from the other side, gave a short nod in her direction that looked almost like a salute without the hand. The day's training shifted gears. Less break you, more build you. They ran a squad lanes rehearsal with rotating command. Maddie didn't chase the loudest voice, she set the clearest plan. Assign roles, check understanding, execute, debrief. She put Sophie on a job she could win, pace count and time hack, and watched her hit it twice with confidence that didn't wobble. She asked Jordan to shadow the new kid who still wore nerves on his sleeves. Cole led his lane with precision and, for the first time, asked for a cross-check instead of assuming he was right. Growth wasn't noisy. It was visible if you looked in the right places. Chow brought mail. An envelope with Ethan's chicken scratch. He wrote about a small contest he entered and winning a deck he couldn't afford last month. He wrote 2 lines that hit harder than the heat, proud of you even when you were just thinking about doing it. Proud of you now. Don't quit first. Maddie folded it slow and slid it behind the photo. The words didn't make her lighter. They made her more solid. Brooks pulled her aside before evening formation. Carter, he caught himself, then corrected because names mattered. Hale. You know why the pier line has your name? I tried to keep people moving. You didn't try, he said, voice flat. You did. And you did it without acting like the movie was about you. Hold that. Ego creeps easy when the list has your name. Kill it at the door. Yes, drill sergeant. He studied her a second longer. Also, fix your left heel. Your gait's compensating. You'll pay for it on a long ruck. The corner of her mouth twitched. Yes, drill sergeant. Twilight set clean over Fort Branson. Flags snapped. The company formed up for a short talk that wasn't short. Brooks spoke about the endgame. Graduation isn't a finish line. It's a handoff. Some of you will go train others. Some will join units that won't care how fast you ran here. They'll care if you're dependable. He let the word sit. Dependable means you do it right when nobody's clapping. Back in the bay, Maddie wrote a list on a scrap of the training schedule: heel tape, stretch calves, dry socks in zip bag, trigger press drills, wall cues for Sophie, pace checks for new kid. Jordan read over her shoulder. You can breathe, you know. Breathing's on the list, Maddie said. Jordan laughed into her sleeve. Sleep came easier. The ache in her legs didn't. But it felt earned, not borrowed. The conflict that had colored every day, between who she was on the bus and who she was now, wasn't gone, but it was losing ground. Travis had stopped being a voice she fought and started being a metric she could learn from. Sophie had stopped seeing walls and started seeing steps. Jordan had always been a steady drumbeat, now the squad moved to it. In the morning, a new rumor ran the hall, names being floated for honor grad. Maddie didn't chase it. She taped her heel, laced her boots, and checked on Sophie's ankle. She asked the new kid one question about his pace count and listened to the answer. Outside, the air smelled like rain that hadn't arrived yet. She stepped into formation and felt the line settle around her. Recognition or no recognition, the work stayed the same. Steady was still the difference. And for the first time since the bus door opened, she understood that what she'd been building wasn't a moment. It was a reputation. The final day of training at Fort Branson had come, sunlight stretching long and golden across the parade ground. Recruits lined up in their formation, uniforms crisp, boots shining, sweat and mud stains faded to memory, but muscles remembered. Maddie stood in line, her back straight, eyes forward, feeling the weight of everything that had led to this day: the forge, the miles, the walls, the river, the ropes, the sleepless nights. Every push-up, every adjustment, every careful correction had accumulated into a quiet certainty that wasn't arrogance. It was readiness. Brooks walked the line slowly, eyes scanning, stopping briefly in front of each squad. When he reached Maddie, he held his gaze a moment longer. She didn't flinch. She felt the recognition in his silence. The ceremony began mid-morning. Families, friends, and a scattering of senior instructors gathered on the stands. The cadence of commands echoed over the base. Maddie felt her heart beat in rhythm with the brass, boots striking the ground in perfect alignment. Names were called for completion certificates. Some recruits stepped forward confidently, others hesitated, reflecting on their own journey. When Maddie's name was called, she moved into position, scanning her squad who followed in perfect step. Cole's eyes met hers for a second, a quiet acknowledgement replacing their old rivalry. Sophie gave a small thumbs up. Jordan grinned faintly, a silent cheer carried in her expression. Staff Sergeant Brooks presented the awards. For consistent performance, leadership under stress, and elevating your squad through challenges, Madison Hale is recognized as honor graduate of this cycle. She has not only met the standard, she has defined it. The words carried across the parade ground like a tide, and Maddie felt a warmth she hadn't expected. Pride, yes, but more importantly, a sense of completion. The weight of countless early mornings, each painful obstacle, and every small victory settled in as proof of endurance and resilience. When the formalities ended, Maddie returned to her squad. The barracks felt familiar now, quieter than before, filled with the subdued energy of those who had been tested and survived. Cole approached her, hand extended. "Congratulations," he said, no smirk, no sarcasm, just recognition. She shook his hand firmly. "We earned it," she replied. Sophie leaned on her shoulder for a moment. "Thanks for keeping us moving," she whispered. Jordan put a hand on her back. "You did more than lead. You carried the line," she said softly. Later, Maddie stood alone at the edge of the parade ground, looking over Fort Branson. The wind carried the scent of pine and damp earth. She thought of Lincoln, of Ethan's note tucked into her pillow, and the bus ride that had begun it all. She had been timid, uncertain, and raw. Now she was measured, confident, and ready. Not perfect. Not invincible. But steady. Reliable. Prepared to lead and inspire others. The lessons of the forge lingered, etched into every movement, every decision. Leadership was not about being the loudest, fastest, or strongest. It was about guiding under pressure, making the hard calls, and being the anchor when others faltered. She had learned patience with Sophie, accountability with Jordan, and respect even from Cole. Every failure, every setback, every blister, and bruise had been part of a curriculum far tougher than any book or lecture could provide. She had discovered the value of endurance, discipline, and compassion in equal measure. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, Maddie packed her gear one last time, arranging each item with care. The photo of Ethan, the letters, the scraps of notes from small victories, all slid into a box that told her story. She allowed herself a quiet smile. Graduation was not an end, it was a beginning. The path forward into active duty awaited, full of unknowns, heavier loads, and new challenges. But she had been forged to meet them, steady and resolute. Stepping outside, the wind brushing her face, she felt the pulse of the base, the echo of commands, the rhythm of boots striking ground. She inhaled deep, filling her lungs with the moment, and let it go. She was no longer the timid recruit who had stepped off the bus from Lincoln. She was a soldier, a leader, an honor graduate, and a force shaped by every trial she had endured. And somewhere deep inside, she made herself a promise: she would continue to push, to guide, to endure, and to rise above whatever came next. The journey had only just begun, and Madison Hale was ready to meet it head-on.